I think I was always kind of a ham growing up on the reservation, on the Navajo in northern Arizona, and I grew up without television, so we really had active imaginations. We all had a real sense of play, and we're always putting on plays. I remember going to boarding school and writing plays and being the director and everybody acting out the parts and things like so. I think it was always in my imagination, and I kind of grew up that way. And then when I went to university, I studied acting. It was enough of it to really actually catch the bug, and then want to get trained in it. And then I went to New York City and I worked off Broadway for many years. Right, pretty much when I graduated from the University of Arizona, I got into a movie with Clint Eastwood, which was a pretty big deal. I mean, it was huge casting call on that, and it took him a while to find the right person because that person had to speak their language. And so I got that role, and the car came right after that. It was just something they offered me, and it was funny because I had taken a year off of school to do The Outlaw Josie Wales. And then right after I finished that, I had gone back to school. So I was telling all my professors, okay, I'm coming back, I'm starting the new semester. And then as soon as I started, I got an offer for the car. When I read the script, I was, well, there was some interesting things in it. Of course, I'm going to look at it from my point of view with my own lenses as a Native American. And so the location was southern Utah, and so you're going to have Native Americans in southern Utah. And then when I read my part, I thought it was, I really liked my part. And I read some of the other, there's a couple of police officers who are also Navajo, I believe, and there was a grandmother character, and you know, they had there was a extensive dialogue that came from the grandmother character, and I was very curious as to how they were going to cast that and who they were going to cast. And at that time in the 70s, there wasn't a big pool of Native American actors to pull from, so I was kind of curious about that. But ultimately, in the end, they did cast Margaret Willey, who was actually a Lakota Sioux, not from the Navajo tribe. She's from South Dakota, having moved to Los Angeles, and so she lived wonderful, beautiful woman. She was at that time, I think, in her 80s, and very spunky little woman. And so when they did cast her, they had this large piece of dialogue, and so they asked me if I could, first of all, translate it and then teach it to her. So when I basically just did the dialogue as it was written in the script, and it was pretty extensive about how she saw, you know, one of the characters was drinking, and this car came and mowed him down. And I mean, there was quite a bit of dialogue in Navajo. And when I wrote it out phonetically. But when I went to teach it to her, she just couldn't get it. It was just too difficult. And so we had to cut all of it out and just give her, like, maybe at the most 8 or 9, maybe 10 words in Navajo. It was very choppy. But it gave an idea. It gave a flavor of you know, the guy was drunk and this car came and it hit him, and I believe she said there was no one in the car. Yeah, that she says there's no one. She did not see a driver in the car.
Adeho gona Cho Elwood. Evet, Yiki, Cho Elwood.
You swear it around Clemens, and then hit Ed.
Igi Achan, Yesta, Hatsi di, Besbe, Hosen, Sha Acheni Kayogo, Net Edge.
What did she say?
She's an old woman. Indian talk. It doesn't matter.
What did she say, Chaz?
Moccasin Tiger says bad things are coming with the wind. Her family's going deeper in the backcountry tomorrow. What do you think?
About what?
Well, what do you want to do?
How the hell do I know?
And so we finally did that. We did get that on camera. But, you know, a lot of Navajos who've seen the movie, they were going, oh, you know, we could see how she was trying to say the words. And it sounded like Navajo, but it was not Navajo. So it was a little tough there for the Navajo audiences. But I think the general American public probably didn't know any difference. But she did a wonderful job. She you know, sweet woman, Margaret Willey, and but I think that Elliot, the director at the time, he really wanted it to be as authentic as possible. I mean, she was Lakota Sioux. She could have said something in her own language, and then I would have responded in Navajo. But he thought, well, this is Navajo, and it's Navajo country, and we should try to do this in Navajo if at all possible. And so Margaret did it the best she knew how, and we got the idea across. I think that might have been the only reference to the fact that maybe there was some evil thing lurking out there that created this monster, and whatever it was, it might have been an indication that life was getting thrown out of balance, and I think there's a deeper subtext to the reason of why the car is out there, and the whole idea that there are evil spirits, and I think that was what Grandma Willie was referring to, is that there's something evil out there blowing in the wind. It's created this terrible thing, and I think that, you know, they're always alluding to that somewhat in this film. No one ever really says it, but, you know, it's an eerie feeling every time something happens, and no one actually goes into really explaining it, but it's always in the background.
Wade, there's something I want to tell you about last night. Well, the old lady, well, Chaz, he didn't translate everything that she said.
What do you mean?
Well, she said there was no driver in the car.
Thanks, Donna.
Well, first of all, Elliot was a very smart man. He knew exactly what he wanted, how he wanted each shot to be set up, and he never, he always seemed very direct. He was never confused about anything. He seemed to come in and he was very well prepared, and he knew exactly how that day was going to go. And so I put all my trust into him, and he was a fantastic director. He really motivated me into, you know, because you come in, you know your dialogue, you can come in with a sense of your own tension and pressure, whatever you feel the character's feeling at the time, but he could feel the whole piece, and so I may not have seen that right at that moment, but after seeing the film, I could see where that whole police department was just under the gun, and they had to solve this problem, or, you know, they're not doing their job, or the whole community is going to be after them. Who knows what's going to happen? But I mean, it obviously is everybody's got to move, everybody's got to solve this problem. Even then, I could see that it was a good story. And I was like, wow, this is a great movie. I mean, and the car was like, and the best part to me, my favorite part, even though everyone did an excellent job in everything, my favorite part was the music. The music was just like unbelievable. It just brought all of those elements together about what was going on and building that intensity and that car and the close-ups and the way they put the camera and how Elliot orchestrated some of those things where it was like this thing was a living, breathing thing. I mean, it was scary. And you see that on a big screen. I mean, if they could ever put this back on the big screen, it would be awesome.